by before you enter the critical section, you can disable the interrupt, and after performing the critical section, you can enable the interrupt. Okay, and because you disable the interrupt, no other process can intervene inside, can come into the critical section only in this processor. Okay, so this is only for uniprocessor. But for multi-cores or multiprocessors, disabling interrupt, it does not affect other cores or other processors. It's nothing to do with it. It's independent. Other cores are free to run any code. So other core or processor can enter a critical section with the same shared resource. And it can cause problem for mutual exclusion. And even it can execute the same code. Okay, you can execute the same code in multiple cores, but disabling interrupts affects only the particular processor that you disabled. But for the other cores, it's nothing to do with the disabling interrupt. So you can execute the same code, you can run the same mutual critical section, and multiple critical sections can exist for the same resource, which creates problems. Okay? So this is only for uniprocessor. So for uniprocessor, the simplest approach is you can disable interrupt before you enter the critical section. You can enable the interrupt after you exit from the critical section. Okay? Question? Okay, so I was confused last time, but hopefully this clarifies the discussion on the interrupt disable and enable. So to support mutual exclusion, you can disable or enable interrupt, but that's only for uniprocessor. For in the general case, including multiprocessors, usually the machine has some hardware support called special machine instruction, and there are various type of these instructions. It depends on the processor, and the most common instruction is test and set. If you support one instruction, that should be fine. But for other processors, they might support other instructions. So examples are test and set, compare and swap, fetch and add, exchange, etc. If you think about this shared memory location, if one processor accesses that location and until get the value, other processors may not access the location because there is only one memory location, and this is atomic. You can, at the same time, nobody can access the location until that first access is completed because there is only one resource, only one memory location. So inherently, this shared memory location access is exclusive, and they support some kind of exchange instruction. Test and set means you test some value. If the test value is equal to the memory value, you set to a new value, and so exchange, we look at exchange also. It will exchange the current value with the memory value. But if some other another process from other processors requires accessing the same location, until the first one complete, the other cannot access the location because there is only one location. Okay? So this test and set is supported by most processors because this is the most common. So it's supported by x86 and IA64. This is also called IA32, Intel's 32-bit instruction set architecture, Intel's 64-bit instruction set architecture, and SPARC, and IBM, and so on. These are atomic operations supported by machine instructions. And so this instruction alone, you cannot support mutual exclusion directly, but by using this instruction, you can implement semaphores or other software solutions, software schemes. So we will look at some examples later after we discuss some basics background. And it can also be used for multiprocessors. The only problem, the problems are The biggest problem is busy waiting, because if other process or thread accessing the same memory location, if somebody else is accessing the same location, it must wait and retry until the previous access is complete. So it's some kind of busy waiting until the previous one is complete. And it can also lead to deadlock and starvation. And we'll discuss why this kind of problem will occur for this special machine instruction. Okay? To support mutual exclusion and critical section, we can use semaphores, monitors, or message passing. Let's discuss the semaphore. Let me have a seat. Semaphore is a variable that provides a simple abstraction for controlling access to a common resource in a programming environment. So in general, semaphore, you can have two operations. One is called V and the other is called P. V is also called signal. P is called wait. So in the textbook, they use signal and wait instead of P and V operation. But depending on the textbook, sometimes textbook says PV operation or signal wait operation. So V operation means increment the semaphore. So it signals, okay. You're on the step top. Okay. So signal means it signals the other process that I have used the resource and you can now use the resource. It's sometimes notify or signal. P operation is also called wait. So if the resource is available, you can decrement the semaphore and you can use the resource, but if the resource is not available, it has to wait until it receives the signal. Okay? So that's the meaning of P and V operation. We'll discuss the details of the semaphores. And the value of semaphore is usually the number of units of the resource that are currently available. So you can set 1 if there is only one resource, and you can set 5 if there are 5 resources. You can do P operation, decrement semaphore until it becomes 0. Then you have to wait until the other process performs V operation, which is I have used the resource and it notifies the other process that you can use. So until it receives the signal operation, it has to block. Okay, we will discuss the details of these semaphores. There are two types of semaphore, binary semaphore or counting semaphore. Binary semaphore is simple, it has only 0 and 1. Counting semaphore, it can have arbitrary resource count. Okay, race condition. This is a little different from textbook definition of race condition. This is more general, so you can use this definition instead of textbook. So race condition occurs when two or more process or thread access shared data and they try to change the data item at the same time. Because thread process scheduling algorithm can switch between threads or process, you don't know which thread will access the shared data first. So this is why they are called racing condition. Two threads or two processes are racing to change or update the data at the same time. And this can cause problems. Operations upon shared data should be in the critical section, and that must be mutually exclusive in order to avoid harmful collision between process or thread. So if you have this kind of condition, you have to use critical section to provide mutual exclusion. Otherwise, it will cause problems, and this kind of problems are regarded as programming error. Programming error. And so this is concurrency. Two process or threads are in the same location, and you don't know mutual exclusion or critical section. So you didn't protect the shared data with critical section, and it sometimes leads to correct program result because the order is unpredictable. Sometimes it can lead to correct result, but sometimes may not because it depends on the scheduling. Okay, so the programmer think this program is fine, but next time you run, the results might not be what you expect, and that's called race condition, and this is a programming error. And it's difficult to locate this kind of programming error because it's non-deterministic and not reproducible. So since you run a critical section, mutual exclusion, you should avoid this kind of condition. So this is an example. Let's say two processes are accessing this single linked list at the same time without mutual exclusion. And when you remove a linked list, if you want to remove a node, this pointer you change to point to this point, the next node, then you can remove this node, right? And you can also remove this node by changing this pointer. Okay, this is two different operations, but on the same linked list, and it can cause some problems. Without mutual exclusion, before it completes this, two processes are doing the, accessing this node I plus 3 at the same time, and this changed to this one, and this changed to this one. Okay, and then they complete. And then you want to remove these two, but actually you can remove, but if you follow linked list, you only remove one instead of two. Okay, that can happen. So before you do this, you have to protect this resource with critical section, and only one process at a time can enter the critical section. After this complete, and then this is the linked list, and then using this pointer you can change to this one. I can remove two, but if you do it at the same time, then it can cause problems. Okay, these are the example of race condition. Okay, question?
Yeah, I will. Why do you link I to I plus 2 if you skip I from I minus?
So linked list node removal means your previous pointer points to the next one. But before it complete, if somebody else is doing at the same time, then they are doing this, and you remove only one, right? But if you do one by one, after it completes, protected by mutual exclusion critical section, and then you remove the next one, then you can remove two. But here, if you allow both of them are accessing the location at the same time, then it can cause problems. Okay?
So in this graph, the process trying to delete I and I plus 1 or 5.
So they are trying to remove I plus 1, but actually they remove only I plus 1 remains if they are not protected. Okay? If somehow scheduling delays the other process or thread, then it might produce a correct result, but it's non-deterministic. It depends on scheduling. So sometimes it correct result, sometimes incorrect result. This is called race condition. You have to protect. Okay? Okay, deadlock and starvation. I think most of you heard about deadlock before, but deadlock is a situation where two or more competing processes are waiting for the other to release a resource. This is the simplest type of deadlock. You have two processes, you have two resources. P1 is holding R1, P2 is holding R2, and P1 is P1 is P1 is holding R2, P2 is holding R1, P1 is requesting R1, P2 is requesting R2. It's like there are two people. So you have, let's say, in the real example, what can be a real deadlock? So let's say, since you want to take a note, if you want to take a note, you need a pen and paper. Okay? Here's a paper, here's a pen. And both of them are waiting for the other to borrow, and they do not borrow each other, and then this is called deadlock. Okay? Simplest case. It can happen in real situation like traffic or other case. Nobody give up, then they are waiting indefinitely, and this is called deadlock. Starvation is a situation where the progress of process is indefinitely postponed by the scheduler. Somehow scheduler schedules some processes, and if you do a FIFO or round robin FIFO, first in first out, then you can schedule all the other processes. Eventually, a scheduling algorithm, there are other scheduling algorithms such as priority scheduling algorithm. So some other process, even though other processes are scheduled, this process has been never scheduled. And so in the future, it doesn't know whether it will be scheduled or not. This is called indefinite postponement. It cannot guarantee. Okay? That's called starvation or indefinite postponement. Okay? Step top. He's in a dream. Okay. Starvation. Can you find any example in real life? Starvation. Starvation is also called. This is not infinite, indefinite postponement. Indefinite postponement. In real life, this starvation rarely happens, but assuming that you go to a bank and you are waiting for the bank because there are many customers and you are waiting in the queue, but there are some other customers that have some high priority, taking a loan or something else, and it's continuously intervening or coming into this queue, and they are serviced by the banker. And you don't have time, so sometimes you might not be serviced. Okay, doesn't guarantee. It's close to starvation. So in actual in a computer, this starvation can really happen, and we'll see some more examples. Okay, live lock is a situation where two or more processes continuously change their state without making progress. Somehow they are updating their state, changing they're doing something, but they don't make any progress. And it's different from starvation or deadlock, but it's doing something, so it's live, but it's waiting. It's doing nothing useful, so it's called live lock. Okay, live lock. Okay. So let's go back to textbook. Textbook has several examples. We'll first look at hardware instructions and semaphore, and then we'll look at monitor and message passing. As I said, compare and swap is the most common machine instruction. So this is the definition of compare and swap. Okay, so you have three arguments for this instruction. You access this memory location, and if you store into the old value, if the old value equals test value, you put the new value into the memory location. And then, if this is not, then you don't do this, right? And then you return old value. Okay? This is definition. As I said, this is supported by most processors, comprehensive instruction. This is the example of critical section using compare and swap. As I said before, these special instructions do not support mutual exclusion directly, but with this special instruction, you can implement mutual exclusion, critical section, easily. Okay, so this is the memory location, shared memory location. And you initialize edge 0, and this is parallel begins. So process P1 to Pn and process run concurrently after this point. And each process is performing this. So while true, so this is infinite loop, they first perform compare and swap. This is the test value. If the test value memory location is 1, and before test value means before the memory value is 0, you are waiting here. So this is doing some busy loop. If you do this, so you test value is in general the value you are waiting for. The value you are waiting for. And if you receive the value you are waiting for, you update. Otherwise, you just wait. You just wait until you receive the until you get this test value. So memory location you expect 0. You test 0, and memory location here it should be 1. Okay, let's go. So you get the memory value. So you expect test value should be equal to this value. Then you can enter the critical section until this is equal to 0. Let's look at y. So you expect 0, but it means 1 means that current value should be 1. So you look at the old value, and old value is test value. Old value equal test. Old value should be 1 and test value is 0. So you cannot swap, and you return old value. Okay. So until this function is equal to 0, you have to wait in this loop. Wait in this loop. Confused? Confused? So let me try to give you another explanation. So volt, this variable, shared memory location is initialized at 0. And everybody is trying to access this location at the same time. So they perform compare and swap, but one can only proceed and succeed. So if they see value of 0, they are succeeding. They have succeeded. Okay? And they can enter the critical section. Enter the section. If somebody else is seeing this 1, then somebody else already has succeeded. They have exchanged. And they have to wait until it becomes 0. The memory location is 0. And so it reaches this value. The old value should be 0, which is what he expects. But as you have seen, so they couldn't exchange, and the return value for compare and swap is 1, which means somebody else has already accessed their location and put 1 instead of 0. So somebody has control over their memory location. Okay? So this function equal 1 means it has read value of 1, but other process access the location already. And before other process reset this value, he cannot succeed in compare and swap. So if other processor inside critical section, they initialize at 0, then they exit the critical section because it initialized 0, then somebody else can succeed. And the return value should be 0, so they can enter the critical section. Only one can enter. Okay? How many of you can understand this? Raise your hand. Only a few. So you can think of it as either 0 or 1. The initial value is 0, and you want to exchange to 1, so that 1 means no other process can interrupt. I'm in the critical section. If you see the value of 1, you cannot do compare and swap. Okay? If you see value of 0, then you can. Okay? That's the meaning. So if Apple is performing compare and swap, the return value should be 0. Then you are succeeded. Okay? If the return value is 1, somebody else is using it. You have to wait. So after this, so this is some kind of busy waiting. You have to retry and retry until you get the value of 0. Until you get the value of 0, you are doing busy waiting. Because memory access doesn't take that much compared to other implementation, because it's supported by hardware. It's quite efficient. But busy waiting means it has some overhead. It consumes processor cycles without any progress. Okay, so there are some disadvantages. But this can support critical section. So the definition is you access the memory location. If the memory location is the value you want, which is 0, then you can exchange. Right? If the value is 1, then you cannot exchange, and you will return 1 because somebody else has already succeeded in compare and swap and set the 1. So until you receive 0, you wait. Okay, that's this compare and swap. And then when you succeed, becomes 0, then you enter the critical section. So this is the beginning of critical section, but one process can enter, all the other process must wait. And after it performs critical section and they reset 0, then if there are multiple processes, only one can proceed. Okay? How many of you? Raise your hand. Okay, maybe about 30-40%. So you can think of 0 and 1, and always this value, test value, should be equal to memory location, then you succeed. Otherwise, you cannot succeed and you have to wait. Okay? That's the critical section. You have to think about by yourself, I guess. Okay? You can also use exchange instruction. It's more simple. You just have a local value, memory location, you just exchange. So if you look at here, it's just exchange operation. Okay? And x86 and 64 support, in addition to compare and swap, they support this exchange instruction, because there are software using this instruction. Okay, this is the critical section using exchange. Again, we use bolt, and you initialize at 0, and n process begin concurrently, and each process they have local variable ki. They try to do exchange. So ki is 1. So since you expect 0, and after exchange, ki should be, you want to have memory should be 1 and ki should be 0, right? Because you want to exchange. So you perform exchange. If the ki is 0, then you succeed, right? But if the ki is not 0, then somebody else already perform this exchange and succeed. So while this is not 0, you have to wait. You wait. And then as soon as this ki becomes 0, then this is the value you expect. So you exchange and you do the critical section, you reset bolt, and you exit the critical section, and then the memory should be after the critical section, bolt equals 0, so memory location is 0, so somebody else can enter the critical, only one. Okay? So this is more simpler to understand, right? Compared to test and set, but how many of you can understand? Exchange. Okay? Also about 40%, 30%. You want to exchange 0 with 1, right? So they exchange. So you have local value 1, memory value 0. And if the ki equals 0, then you succeed in exchange and memory should be 1, right? You exchange it. But if the ki equals 1, then somebody else is already accessed this location. Okay? So you wait until this becomes 0, and somebody else eventually reset it 0, and then you can proceed. Okay? Okay. This special instruction has some advantage and disadvantage. So this is applicable to any number of process for either single processor and also for multiprocessor. And simple and easy to verify. It can be used to support multiple critical section. Disadvantage, as I said, busy waiting, but starvation and deadlock is possible. And this is an example. Starvation is possible because memory location only one can access. It's atomic operation. But if multiple processes are accessing the same memory location, one can proceed, but this selection of process or thread is arbitrary. It's random. So somehow it's random means you are not guaranteed, right? So starvation is possible, okay? So if you implement using this special instruction, sometimes if some process or thread is unlucky, then they are delayed indefinitely, okay? Because selection is random. And deadlock is also possible. This shows the example, and you can read through, okay? Let me explain. Process P1 executes component set, and they succeed and enter the critical section. P1 is then interrupted and give control to P2, but P2 has higher priority. So now P2 has higher priority, but P2 will be denied access due to mutual exclusion and go to busy waiting because only one can succeed. And P1 will be never dispatched since it has lower priority. So P1 is, if P2 has higher priority, P2 continue busy waiting, while P1 will never be scheduled because it has lower priority. So if the scheduling algorithm has priority-based scheduling, then you can read to deadlock. Okay. Let's go to semaphore. Semaphore is a variable that has an integer value. Before I said 2 operations, but including initialization, you can have 3 operations. Initialize to a non-negative integer value. So 0, 1, or 2, or 3, and so on. Counting semaphore, you can have any number. And semaphore wait, P operation, semaphore signal, V operation. And the textbook is wait and signal. And only these 3 operations are possible, and you can manipulate this semaphore. And there are no way to inspect or no way to manipulate these semaphore variables. This is the definition of semaphore. Semaphore wait means you have some semaphore count. So this is counting semaphore. And each semaphore has a queue. Semaphore wait on this semaphore S means wait means you decrement the count. If count is less than 0, you place this process in a queue and you block this process. So wait means you decrement, and count should be after decrement 0 or greater than 0. Then you don't have to queue, but if it becomes negative, then you have to block. Okay? Signal means you increment. After you increment, if the semaphore count is less than or equal to 0, then you remove waiting process from the queue and you place this from the queue on the ready list. This is the definition. This is binary semaphore. Let's look at example of semaphore. So these are ready queue, these are blocked queue. It's like if you perform wait, if you're trying to use this resource, if there is no resource, it's not available, you have to block. Okay? So these are process or thread. Okay. So this process A performs a wait, and initially semaphore value is 1. So wait means decrement, and definition is after decrement, if it's less than 0, you block. If it's greater than or equal to 0, you don't have to block, you succeed. So here, because this value is 1, you succeed. And it may enter the critical section, or it performs continuously. And after it completes, because scheduling slice, it goes back to the ready queue. Okay? A, C, D. Now B is trying to perform wait, and after decrement, it becomes 0. And semaphore wait operation, the definition is less than 0, you block. So current value is 0, but if you perform, so because you decrement before, so if we perform the wait, it will be -1. Okay? -1, which means you cannot get the semaphore. Okay? You have to block. So B is going into the blocked queue. Okay? And A and C. and D is scheduled, D is performing signal instead of wait. Okay, so it increment, so it becomes 0. If its value is less than or equal to 0, which means there are some waiting process or thread. So after it increment, it becomes 0. So there are waiting process. So it will unblock this one. Okay? So B is moving to a ready queue. Again, C will perform wait, and A will perform wait, and B will perform wait, and it becomes minus, and CAB will be blocked. D is again scheduled. It performs signal, and C will move to the ready queue, and so on. Okay? So, here minus value means, minus 1 means there are 1 process waiting. Minus 2 means 2 processes are waiting. Minus 3 means 3 processes are waiting. After you increment, still minus 3 to minus 2. Minus 2 means there should be process blocked. Okay? So you free one. Okay? So this negative number means number of processes are waiting in the blocked queue. Okay? So after you increment, it becomes minus means. So minus 3 means there are 3 processes waiting. After you increment, you can unblock 1 process, but still minus 2 processes are blocked. Okay? So after you perform wait, you decrement, it becomes 0, then you are succeed, but it becomes minus, then you have to block. Okay? That's the meaning of semaphore. Okay, how many of you did follow? Okay? Always about 30 to 40%. Any question so far? 잠깐만.
I don't quite understand the change from the number 4 to number 5.
Number 5? Okay, so when D is scheduled, the value of S was minus 1, which means 1 process or thread is waiting for the semaphore. So you increment because this process signals. Okay? And because minus 1 means there was a waiting process, so after the signal, the first one will be unblocked, which goes to the ready queue. Okay? And then she is doing wait. The first is S equals 0, but it performs wait signal, then it decrement, S becomes minus 1. If it becomes minus 1, he has to block. So she will go to this block queue. Okay? And then A is scheduled, and still performing wave function, which is decrement minus 2, because it's negative, it blocks itself. So C, A, B, 3 processes are blocked on the blocked queue. And then until other process signaled, only one can move to the ready queue, but once it performs signal, it will be blocked continuously. Okay? If you follow this definition, then after you decrement, if the value becomes negative, you have to block. So 1, you perform wait, it becomes 0. 0 means it's not negative, so you don't have to block. You can take this semaphore and run. And but B, after wait, it becomes -1. Then it has to block. Okay? And D is calling a signal. Then this can move to ready queue. And now C, A, B continuously perform wait becomes from 0, -1, -2, -3. And after D perform signal, it becomes -2. And C3 perform signal, only one goes to the ready queue. Okay? Any other question? You understand? So how many of you? No idea. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. No idea. You have no idea?
No.
No. Okay. It's simple. You just follow this definition. Follow this definition.
So those processor command whether this process should be who command wait and
Each process or thread performs wait or signal. Wait means it wants to get this semaphore. Okay? Signal means they release this semaphore. Okay? So wait is called wait because sometimes the semaphore is not available. You have to wait. Signal means it notifies blocked process to continue. The only one.
the kernel in the process
Process or thread.
is not a kernel, right?
It can be kernel or it can be application. Any. Semaphore can be used for synchronization for kernel code or user code. Okay?
So in the semaphore has common features.
Semaphore is a software scheme to implement mutual exclusion. Using the semaphore, you can implement critical section or other more complex synchronization primitives.
In semaphore purpose critical section.
Using the semaphore, you can implement critical section. This is the implementation of critical section. Simply, you can implement using semaphore wait and semaphore signal. Okay?
So processor think that I must have more time to process, so a process command itself to semaphore the semaphore command the other process, whether the process.
Semaphore does not command. Semaphore is a variable. And semaphore is a variable and it's operated by only wait and signal. And you want to get the semaphore, right? If you want to get the semaphore, then it's called wait operation. You have used the semaphore and you release the semaphore, that's called signal operation. So signal means for waiting process, it signals that you can proceed. Wait means it might succeed because semaphore might be available, but it might not succeed. Semaphore may not be available. Okay? It's just a variable. And in general, semaphore is a type of lock. The most common lock is called semaphore. And if you follow this definition, then you should understand this.
Professor, I think this slide page didn't notice the one condition point.
Okay?
In book this problem, only the processor provide including semaphore, and the A processor, B processor, C processor only using only decreasing semaphore.
Okay. A, B, C are decreasing. Right, that's they are performing wait, and D is performing signal. Okay, that's right. So, Right, in this case, it's the same.
Yeah, I think it is very important condition for
Important condition, what is important?
only D increasing semaphore.
In this example,
Yeah.
right. There should be apparent. D is issuing signal only. Okay.
In this example, number one, A process
Performs rate. Okay.
and A didn't increasing S, but B also do rate. So
A actually succeeded in getting the semaphore because after decrement it becomes 0, which means the original value was 1. Okay, so A was succeed in using this semaphore, and after reduce it goes back to this ready queue. But when B is scheduled, it performs another way, but S becomes negative. Then it has to block.
So in this case, we can implement, if we want to implement critical section, we should use just one semaphore, or we use two semaphores, isn't it?
There is only one semaphore S. That's all.
But A process and B process use S without signal.
Right, they are just waiting. They are trying to use this semaphore, but somebody else is using and has not released. So they are waiting, and here the example is D is signaling. So it actually D, whenever it performs signal, it only allows one process, blocked process, to go to the ready queue. Okay. Is there any issue?
한글로 질문해도 이게
오케이.
이게 뭐지? 이게 웨이트 신호가 이거 스마트폰을 떠오고 싶을 때 사용하는 게 아닌가요?
It's not exclusive access. Semaphores in general, these are counting semaphore, you can set to arbitrary number. And there are multiple process. Both of them are signaling and waiting. Okay, waiting means it's trying to use the semaphore. Signal means it has to use, it's trying to release the semaphore.
크리티컬 섹션을 임플리먼트 하고 싶으면 그 크리티컬 섹션은 한 프로세스만 쓸 수 있어야 되잖아요. 그럴 때는 그럼 하나만 할 수 있게 스마트폰을 조정하는 건가요?
Critical section, particularly, maybe just one semaphore is enough, but other more complex situation, we might have to use multiple semaphores. Okay.
그러니까 그 세마포의 값을 지금 1부터 시작하면은
If there are more process signaling, right, then if D might signal again and again, or other process signaling again and again, then it becomes 0, and it can be also plus, or it can be some arbitrary value. Okay, and this is in the middle of some process. Some other process might have used this semaphore, and the current value is 1. Right, it starts from 1, but there are more weights going on, so there are more process, and only 2 signals are performed by D process. Okay, but there are more other process might signal also, and it will increment, and it will unblock, and it can become plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, and so on. Okay. Other question? Okay.
What happens if two or more processes or processes as count simultaneously?
Simultaneously, semaphore, as I said, semaphore, to access the wait operation after decrement, it should be 0 or plus. Otherwise, it cannot never access the semaphore. Okay? And so, if it's 0 or more, then semaphores are available, and that's okay. But if it's less than 0, it means you have to block. And using the semaphore, you can implement mutual exclusion easily. This is, you should follow this definition. Okay? So, this is binary semaphore. Semaphore way means you decrement, negative, you block. Signal, you increment, less than or equal to 0, then you unblock one process. Okay? If you follow this definition, weight decrement, it should not be 0, negative. Negative means you have to block. Signal, if it's after the signal, it becomes 0 or negative, then you have to unblock one process. Okay? Semaphore initial value is 1, you perform wait 0. So it's not negative, so you succeed. B performs wait, it becomes -1, negative, you have to block. D performs signal, so it increments 0. So 0 or less than 0 means there are waiting process, so you unblock one process. CBA performs wait, after it becomes 0, it performs wait, it becomes -1, right? After C performs wait, so you have to block. A performs wait, -2, negative, you block. B performs wait, -3, negative, you have to block. So C, A, B are on the blocked queue. D process comes in, it signals. Only one process continues. Okay?
그러면은 C 단계에서 B가 시그널 받는다고 D는 다시 블록으로 이동하는 거예요?
No, it depends. It might perform wait or it might perform signal. But if it performs signal, then this will be increment and still blocked process, they are moved to ready queue. Okay? And if there are many signals, then it becomes positive value, wait, negative value. After it becomes minus, then it has to block themselves. And after signal, only one can go to the ready queue. Okay? Hopefully, more than helps. If you don't understand, raise your hand. If you don't. You have to read and you have to follow the definition. This is the definition. So using the semaphore, you can implement mutual exclusion. So n process begin concurrently, and semaphore is initialized 1, and you perform wait on this semaphore, and after you perform critical section, you signal. Okay? So wait, the first process or thread performed wait will succeed because it performed wait, then decrement is 0. It's okay, it entered the critical section. Next process performed wait, it becomes -1, it has to block. All the other process has to block until the first one performed signal. Okay? So you can implement critical section easily. Okay. Let's look at 3 process. Semaphore variable is called lock, and it's initialized at 1. You perform wait, decrement 0, so you succeed, right? 0 means you can succeed. You enter the critical section. Process B performs wait, you decrement -1, you have to block. C performs wait, becomes -2, you have to block. The first exit the critical section, performs signal. Performs -1 means, -2 means 2 processes are waiting. One process is released. So here, the first one, B, is released. Okay? B can enter the critical section, it signals, it performs 0. And then, after C performs signal, then 0. Okay, so if it's waiting for this log, but it becomes 0. So -1 means 1 is waiting, and this will make it 0. And then okay. So this one will unblock B, this one will unblock C. Okay? So C can enter the critical section. If open signal, it goes back to 1. So you can actually implement critical section using this wait and signal. Okay? So each of the wait is decrementing, each signal is incrementing, each one will unblock 1. So this one will unblock B, this one will unblock C, and then C can enter. The next problem is producer consumer. So in this textbook, author assumed there are one or more producers, but only one consumer. But in general, multiple producers and multiple consumers. And only one producer or consumer may access the buffer, because if you access at the same time, it can cause race condition. So you have to protect somehow. So you have to ensure the producer cannot add data item into a full buffer. If it's full, you cannot enter. Consumer cannot remove from the empty buffer. So this is the situation. And buffer structure is like this. This is producer. Producer is adding the item. Consumer is removing the item. And if he removes ahead of this consumer, producer, then it should be prevented, right? And if it's full, then producer should not produce. It's producer-consumer synchronization. Okay? So using the semaphore, how you implement this producer-consumer. This is some incorrect solution. And this is why it is incorrect. This is correct solution. I was trying to go to here, but we don't have much time. So let me try to explain this one. So this producer-consumer problem cannot be implemented using one critical section. And here it used two semaphore with one critical section, but it produces incorrect result. And there are correct solutions. It's giving some example. Semaphore programming using semaphore may not be easy. May not be easy. So what it does is it produce some item. It goes into a critical section. It adds into the buffer. It increments the count. And then if the count equal 1, after increment, it signals waiting for this semaphore. And then it performs signal, so it exits the critical section. Just one implementation by some programmer. Okay, the consumer wait for this delay first. So after some producer produced signals, then it can go into this infinite loop, and then it performs critical section. Taking means inverse of append, so you can think of this remove. You decrement, you exit the critical section, and then you perform consumption. Consumption is just using the data, you do the something, okay? And then if n equals 0, then you wait for this delay, and producer consumer begins concurrently, and initially n equals 0, okay? And this leads to some undesirable result. So if you follow this, first produce performs wait, because produce you ignore, consume you ignore, you just look at semaphore operation. Okay? So the first one it does is you do perform wait. S equal initialize as 1, delay is initialized 0. So it performs wait and S equal 1. So S equal 1, N equal 0, delay equal 0. This is the initial value. After you perform S, semaphore wait on S, you decrement. You increment N. And then if N equal 1, you semaphore signal delay. Signal means you increment. And then you perform signal S. You increment the semaphore. It becomes 1 on 1. So this code is directly wait S, signal delay, signal S is from, this code, wait S, N plus plus, signal delay, signal S. Okay? So if you follow this, then it goes back to 1 on 1. And then B is performing, if you follow here, wait, delay, wait B, N minus minus, signal B, and if N equal 0, wait B. Okay, so wait, signal, and another way, possibly, wait, decrement, wait, S, so you decrement N, signal S, increment, and then you are trying to, you are trying to perform wait delay if N equals 0, but signal B, N equals 0, delay. Oh, sorry, this is binary semaphore. So it only has 0 or 1. Okay, so I didn't explain about binary semaphore, but this goes back to binary semaphore definition, which is a little different. If it's 1, it makes 0. If it's 0, it's just block. Okay? So, maybe let's continue this after next class. Okay? We cannot complete.